starts. Okay, so we're going to need our beautiful book. And here we go. Yeah, I should be good now. I'm not loading anything. So we are reading this book, Thunder Rolling in the Mountains. And let's look at first the map right before chapter 1. Okay, so pull up your map in right before chapter 1. And I want you to find, now we did this the other day. Everybody is in Walla Walla Lake, right? And I want you to find the trail. They're going to Lapwai right up here. So go ahead and I want you to follow this trail up. Okay? Riley, what's your question?
Isn't it Wallawa instead of Walla Walla?
Oh, yes. No, it's Walla Walla Lake in Walla Walla Valley. Yep. And so they lived in this area in Washington. And they crossed the Snake River up to and they're heading to Lapwai. So I want to know, we've got a map here. How do you think this map helps you understand the story better? Does anybody have an idea? Harper.
Because you can kind of like envision where they're going and what they're doing, like compared to like a big place.
Yeah. Riley.
Like, yeah, what Harper said, and like you can tell all the places that they've been, it shows you how close Walla Walla it is to Lapwai, and you can like see how long the journey took, or like, and how close Walla Walla is to Idaho. And
That's a good point. On the map, it looks really close, doesn't it? But that's probably, they don't have a scale on here. Usually maps have a scale. That's probably like 500 miles. So it is a really long walk. But yeah, if you look at the map, it seems pretty close. So but it would have to if they're taking a bunch of people from their places and moving them.
You kind of just have to look at like the whole state and see compared.
Yeah.
I was saying like Walla Walla is closer to Lapwai than like if they had to go to maybe Bear Paws Mountains instead.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, somebody ended up writing like, yeah, especially like if you looked at the map of the US, places look really close, but really if you take a car, remember they didn't have vehicles, they had to walk everywhere, or they had horses with travois. So, I really enjoy maps. Number one, it does, like you guys said, it really helps me think about where they're going. Okay, and in what capacity? We see that they have to cross the Snake River. So once they cross it, they soon have to end up moving. Well, they probably went north. So I don't know if they lived at Walla Walla Lake, but they were pretty close to the land of the Wandering Waters. And so it probably took them a while to get up to Snake River and then cross it because it was a big river. And then now they have to head to Lapwai. I would compare the Snake River like the Mississippi River. You know how big and rushing the Mississippi River is? Yeah, so we we can see that it was a pretty dangerous thing. Some people are asking, do we have to send anything in? Nope. That's why I said you just kind of need your book today. Okay, so our questions today is, remember, we're looking still at the beliefs and values that Chief Joseph and his daughter have, okay? And we were looking at this map then. We're looking more, how does this exploration of a map help us? And we are going to still gather evidence to prepare for our assessment, which is kind of tomorrow. We got a quick assessment tomorrow, but we've got a essay on this question: what are their values and beliefs? Okay, so that's why we have been looking at. What did I click? That's why we've been looking at 18B. Okay, so today, this is what we're going to do. We're going to look at the map and look at how does it help us support what's happening in the story. We're going to read a lot of chapter 7, and we're going to summarize some of it, and chapter 8. So really, the only thing we're going to need today is this document, Summarize the Graphic Organizers. Somebody wanted but so then. Okay, so put this in Notability. You don't have to turn it in though, okay? Or if you just want to grab a piece of paper, you can. So I'm going to put this in Notability. I would put it in Notability as well. The Summarizing Graphic Organizer, somebody wanted but so then. This is not in your workbook. So it looks like this, summarizing. And then, yeah, people are asking, so what do we do with this? You're going to return it in tomorrow, but you're going to add some stuff to it tomorrow. Okay, so your homework for tomorrow is to add some things, or not homework, but our classwork tomorrow is to add some stuff to Sound of Running Feet. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to read chapter 7 and 8 today, and we're going to kind of summarize what is going on. So who are the characters? What do they want? What's the problem? What they solve? And what is the solution? Okay? Sound like a plan? So, I want this. Okay, we already traced your map. So, ladies and gentlemen, before we start, you had to read chapter 6, and I quickly read it. What was actually? Did we hear about Chief Joseph? Yes, we did. How did Chief Joseph? So, just to summarize, you guys, in chapter 6, that was your homework. How did Chief Joseph react to the news of war? Does anybody have an idea? We'll get to reading.
He was mad that they didn't ask him first, and he wanted no violence.
Yeah, they just kind of did it. Anybody else? Why did he react this way? What did he react? Or how did he react? Madison.
He was mad. He reacted like he did not like that because the whole reason they left was not to have violence, but they just created what he didn't want.
Mm-hmm. Do you think he raised his voice? So what we know about Joseph, do you think he like kept his voice even and just had anger in it, or do you think he like shouted at him? What would you guys predict?
Probably shouted in a calm way.
So let's see. Killing I feared. It is what I have fought against since the beginning. I'm on page 34, by the way. A war we cannot win. He pointed a finger at Swan Necklace. Remember this, young warrior. None of the soldiers will be scalped. Not one. Remember this yourself and tell what I say to your friends. Oh, this, yeah, that's very graphic. Does anybody know what scalping means, unfortunately? Okay. Oliver?
It's where they like take a sharp edge or a knife and cut off the top of your head.
Yeah, it's very gruesome. And it was, I don't personally know the information behind it, but it was something that it was very common, a common practice for the Native American tribes. And so when you killed somebody, then it was kind of like their trophies. You can kind of think of it that way. And so Chief Joseph says, if you kill them, this isn't a trophy, okay? So nobody will be scalped. So you can't cut. It's basically cutting the skin, that scalp top part off of the head. So sorry, you guys, it's very gruesome. Um, but yeah, so he's very specific. This isn't a trophy. We should not be proud that you killed anybody. Riley.
Earlier, you said, like, is he shouting? I think he was, because on page 35 in the last paragraph, it says, "No!" shouted Joseph.
Yeah, let's stay here until the army comes. We will make some kind of peace with them. Okay? And no one listened. Ooh. So he's worried, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to take our book. We're going to read chapter 7. Yes, if you would like to read, raise your hand. I'm going to put our hands down. So if you'd like to read some of chapter 7 or 8, raise your hand. And I want you to write. I've got some Post-it notes. You cannot write in your book directly, but if you've got a little piece of paper, maybe write down the page number and like maybe what paragraph or like a couple words. And tell me some things that you notice or wonder about with chapter 7, okay? I'm going to start like I usually do. Then I will call on somebody and you can read as much as you like. And when you stop, I will call the next person, okay? I am on page 36, chapter 7. That night, our warriors were called. The old men and women packed their few things. At midnight, we left our camp and started south for White Bird Canyon, the home of White Bird's band. At dawn on the 5th day, we came to the crest of a canyon of brush and rock. This was White Bird's Canyon, a place where we could stay while we decided whether or not to fight or flee. We knew the land and our chiefs thought it was the safest place to camp. If the whites follow, said Tehuluhul Solte, we hide and shoot them down as fast as they come. Streams ran through the big canyon. Water trickled against stone walls. Beyond us on the cliff, we posted a warrior to watch for soldiers. All that day and all that night we waited. My father did not sleep. At the first gray light, scouts rode into our camp. Soldiers coming close, he called. Many soldiers. My father rode swiftly. He spoke with other chiefs. We must not shoot first, he said. Maybe they come with good hearts. Okolot agreed. Riley, go ahead and continue reading.
Are we on page 37? Right?
Yes. First full paragraph. The chiefs.
We must not shoot first, he said. Maybe they come with good hearts, Okolot. The chief sent out a truce party. 5 warriors rode to meet the soldiers. One of them carried a white flag to say that we did not wish war. The other young men waited on their horses, hidden behind the bullets, but I don't know what is.
Sorry, the hidden behind the buttes.
The buttes. From our camp, we heard a
Bugle. It's a big
bugle.
horn.
Then a rifle spoke. The lone shot echoed against the stone walls. There was a long silence, then the sound of guns. A warrior rode into a streak of daylight on the crest of the canyon. He waved his bow above his head. "War!" he shouted. The soldiers fired up on our white flag. "Here we stand," Okolot shouted. "We go no farther. First we die, then we die again." Okolot, with his good plans and bravery in the battle, was our most cunning chieftain.
Okay, Nora. Next, Harper. We are page 37. Chief Joseph disagreed. It's like the middle.
Chief Joseph disagreed. We should hide until the night and then slip away. There are too many soldiers. They will kill half our family. My father always thought of his clan first. There were not many of us. Olcott divided the warriors and sent them along the hillside. I watched them go, dodging behind the huge stones. I watched Swan Necklace. He rode with the other redcoats, no longer afraid to fight. My heart beat proudly. I wanted to ride with him. Instead, I took a group of children into a sheltered place beside the creek, where we could play games and forget the bullets flying on the other side of the butte.
Do you want to just finish this paragraph?
Sure.
Thank you.
We held contests to see which one could hold their breath longest. I smoothed off a flat rock, and some of the boys spun tops, making them dance across its surface.
Okay, Harper. Next, Bailey.
How long should I read until?
As long as you want.
Okay. Red Owl, Olcott's son, started a game of wolf. He pretended to be a wolf, and the other children pretended to be calves who had strayed from their mothers. He crept behind the bushes along one side of our sheltered place. The other children pretended to be grazing while they waited for his attack. But Red Owl did not burst out of the bushes to frighten the others. Time passed. I moved quietly to the bushes and looked over them. There was no one to be seen. Red Owl was gone. I put one of the older girls in charge of the little ones and began to look for him. I knew he had left to watch a battle. Red Owl had seen only 7 snows, but he itched to be with the warriors. I climbed the butte. Lying on my stomach, I looked across the battlefield. Horses were running in every direction. I saw one horse, its saddle stained with blood, dragging a blue coat whose foot was caught in the stirrup. Crossing a low ridge in the distance was Red Owl. 5 horse lengths in front of him lay a dead blue coat. Besides his outstretched hand was a shining bugle. I called Red Owl, but he did not stop. He wanted the bugle for his own. As he reached for it, our warriors mounted a charge. They rode past the bugler, and Red Owl lost from view.
Okay, Bailey. Next, Sienna.
Heedless of gunfire, I flew down the butte. When I reached Red Owl, I dropped to the ground beside him. He had taken cover behind the bugler's body. He was afraid to move. So many bullets struck around us that my eyes smarted from the dust. As our warriors' bullets and arrows from their mark, the battle moved away. The shouts and gunfire grew faint. Red Owl raised his head and grinned at me. The bugle was clutched tightly at his fist. I got to my feet and grabbed his arm. My heart still beat fast. "Foolish child," I said, as my fear turned to anger. You will be the death of us." His face grew solemn, and he was quiet as we walked back to the camp. He would not be so boastful in front of the others. It was bad enough that the children would admire Red Owl's daring. I did not want them to copy his pranks.
Okay, Sienna.
At least the battle ended. We were badly outnumbered, but Ocelot drove our warriors. He made them believe that they were truly fighting for their lands and lived and goods. None of our people was killed, and only 2 warriors were wounded by nightfall. We had forced every blue coat to flee, and 34 white soldiers lay dead upon the ground. There would be more battles with the blue coats, Chief Joseph promised. They will follow us. We cannot hide. They will find us wherever we go. Looking Glass said that we must cross the mountains and travel to the land of the crows. Howard could not bring his big guns over the mountains. We could live in peace with the crows and hunt buffalo, the other chiefs agreed.
Okay, I'll continue reading, but if you would like to read some more, you are more than welcome to raise your hand, anybody, at any time. My father was not happy. This is your fight, not mine. I will look after the women and children and old men. You must keep the soldiers away. We left Whitebird Canyon and the beaten soldiers. I felt like singing. My pony stepped lively through the grass. Flowers were blooming under the oak and huckleberries. I rode in the gray dust with the children behind the old people. I made a doll for my baby sister with a piece of a soldier's shirt. The youngest, Joseph, nephew of old Joseph, had found a soldier's knife and was chasing Red Owl. My small cousin had a pair of soldiers' heavy boots and asked me to cut off their tops and make a purse out of them. Harper, would you like to continue to read Beside Me?
Beside me rode White Feather, who had watched me shoot the copper pan from the white woman's hands. She was a year older than I am. Aren't you pleased? She asked. The warriors have won and your father has lost. I am pleased, I said. We have beaten the bluecoats. If they follow us, we will beat them again. There was a whoop from the children. Young Joseph had caught Red Owl and was sticking him in the chest. I took the knife away from him, and when I came back to Swan Necklace was riding with White Feather. My pony fell in beside them. Were you frightened? I asked Swan Necklace. Just at first, he said. Then I knew that was my guardian spirit would keep me safe. Wolitzits and the red moccasin tops rode beside me. We charged the soldiers. 2 Moons and the other warriors followed us. Many of them had only knives or bows. His eyes sparkled as he told us of the battle.
Okay. Nora, then Riley.
The bullets singed like bees around us, but no one was hit, he said. We hung to the side of our horses where the bluecoats could not see us, and shot from beneath the neck. Our guns and arrows found their mark. The soldiers stopped shooting. Their horses went wild and tossed them on the ground. They dropped their guns and ran for their lives. I clapped my hands with joy. I have plenty of bullets now, said Swan Necklace, and all the warriors have rifles. The soldiers won't need them anymore.
That was pretty intense. Okay.
Should I read?
Let's keep going on chapter 8. And Nora, did you want to continue reading more, or do you want to be done?
I'll read another paragraph.
Okay, then Riley.
We fought the white soldiers again on the banks of the rushing Clearwater. This time many bluecoats died, and we lost 4 warriors. 6 other of our young men were hit, but only one had a bad wound. A soldier's bullet went in the back of his shoulder and came out through his chest. He was shot when he rode his horse close to the bluecoats to show he was a brave man, but he was strong and continued to fight. More than a moon had passed since the battle at Whitebird Canyon. The soldiers still followed, but we moved fast, so fast we had to leave our cattle behind.
Alright, do I read now? Okay. Looking Glass took us out of the valley and high into the mountains. We traveled toward the rising sun in the country of the crows. The way was hard. Spruce, hemlock, and pine grew close. The trail was narrow and dark. It twisted up the steep mountainside. Boulders choked the path, and sharp rocks cut the horses' feet. Trees fell by spring storms blocked the way. At night we camped. We lived on roots we dug from the ground and bark we peeled off from trees. When cooked in water, the bark made a soft mush that filled the stomach. Some nights we went to bed hungry. The ponies grazed on the bushes and stiff quiet. grass. 5 of the warriors stayed behind to scout the back trail for soldiers. The redcoats scouted the trail ahead. My heart was with them, but I held dig roots, pound bark, and care for the children. Bending Willow now smiled when lifted from her cradle board. It rained every day. As we neared the top of the path grew steeper. Here it was so narrow that we had to get off our horses and lead them.
Okay, Sienna, do you want to read? Oh, wait. Could you finish the paragraph first, Riley, and then Sienna read?
Yeah. We pressed against the mountain, moving slowly, along the edge of the cliff on a carpet of pine needles. Far below us, a stream wound between the rock falls. The trail was slippery, but none of our ponies stumbled. Is that the end of it, or do I read the whole page?
You can read as much as you want, Sienna. So start at last.
At last we reached the summit and started down the other side of the pass. The rain stopped, the sun came out. We reached a place beside the creek where hot springs would come out of the ground. Steam rose from the rocks, where the water boiled out, and it was so hot you could not keep your finger in it. We bathed in shallow pools below the rocks where the water was not so hot. We stayed in the water until we could no longer bear its heat. Then we ran to the creek and plugged into the cold current. The water washed away our weariness. That day our teepees stood in the high grass. Bushes that grew were made good teas, and we gathered leaves to take with us.
There were so many fish in the stream that we called it Salmon Creek. We would have a good meal that night. Water lilies grew in small ponds nearby, and after I washed my hair, I twisted white flower in each braid. I thought the lilies would make a pretty design for moccasins. As I thought about where I could get some soft deerskin and porcupine quills, the redcoats rode noisily into camp, while Litzitz drew up beside the men who were mending bridles. "Soldiers, in front of us," he said. He was out of breath and had to rest between words. "Building fort. They will head us off." Swan Necklace rode to my side and pushed off his horse. "There's danger," he said. He drew me close to him. "The soldiers know our camp. They have drawn logs against the trail so that we cannot pass. They are building a fort. We may have to fight." "This time I will fight too," I said. "There are many guns now. I know how to shoot." Swan Necklace shook his head. "Your father would never permit it," he said. "Fighting is for warriors." He forgot that only 2 moons ago he had been a painter and I possessed the gun. He never spoke of his colored earths now, and he had not painted on our marriage blanket since we left Wallowa. Before I could say more, the chiefs left the camp to meet the soldiers, taking the redcoats with them. Looking Glass, Whitebird, and Chief Joseph rode in front. My father carried a white flag. Swan Necklace, Red Moccasin Tops, and Walletlitz followed behind in case the bluecoats opened fire. It was dark when the peace party returned. The people crowded out about them. They had heard how our chiefs had stepped off their ponies and walked up to the barricade with empty hands, leaving their guns on their saddles. The soldiers were surprised at their courage, and no one shot at them. We told the chief of the Bluecoats that we had only friendship for the people of Montana, said Looking Glass. The firelight flickered in his soft face. Our quarrel is with the soldiers in Idaho. The white captain shook our hands, but told us we must lay down our guns and give up our horses. The warriors began to mutter. "I will never give up my gun," shouted 2 Moons. He sat on his war horse, looking ready for battle. "Never," said Solte. He struck the earth with his war club. "We did not want this war, but I will not let bluecoats take our rifles and horses." "I agree," said my father. "We cannot do that, but their leader promised no one will attack us if we keep the peace. I advise that we go without talking more." "There is a way," said Looking Glass. "Once we get past the soldiers, we are free to go into the valley. Before the sun rises, we will be gone." We ate quickly, then made ready to leave our peaceful spot. We took the buffalo skins from our teepees, but left the poles behind to lighten the load. Cooking fires were smothered, coals raked, and earth heaped over them. The long line of horses moved away from Solomon Creek. We climbed the steep hill on the northern slope of the canyon, went around the soldiers, and soon were high above the barricade. Trees screened us, but the blue coats saw us pass. They did not speak, but they did not shoot either. The war was over. Okay, so let us look at. I'm going to put my post-it note there. That was a lot. You guys, we're almost halfway through the book now. We're going to definitely finish it soon here after spring break. So we're looking at chapters 9 and 10. Go ahead and do a doble pantalla, a split screen, and you can fill in some of these things with me. Ladies and gentlemen, who were some of the main characters? We know that we had Sound of Running Feet, but who were some of the other main characters?
Swan necklace.
Swan necklace. And then who did they fight against? We can talk about that later, my dear. And they fought against the blue coats, right? So, we actually have a bunch of different wants. There's not just one thing, but let's look back at chapter 7. So they killed people in chapter 6. So old Joseph was angry. And what did the blue coats want? Or what did the Nimi Poo want? What would you say they wanted? Let's start with chapter 7. What did the blue coats want?
The blue coats wanted them to go to Lapwai.
Yes. And they came to fight because they wanted revenge, right? I'm also going to put Red Owl in chapter 7. Okay. So the blue coats wanted the Nimi Poo to go to Lapwai, and they wanted revenge because they killed 2 of their people. Is Lapwai with 1 eye or 2 eyes? 1 eye. Yeah. What? Ooh, we have Red Owl too. Yes, Sienna.
Sound of Running Feet wanted to fight this time, but Swan Necklace shook his head.
So Sound of Running Feet wanted to fight, but was unable. But she took care of the kids instead. What did let's see, Red Owl in chapter 7? What did he want?
Red Owl wanted to fight and be a warrior.
Do you think he actually wanted to fight?
Well, not fight. He wanted to watch them, like.
Yeah. He wanted to watch the fight. And he wanted that bugle. He wanted that kind of trinket or that trophy, that horn afterwards. Okay, hopefully you got that PDF. Yes, that's why we tried to get the PDF beforehand. If you need to write it on a piece of paper, that's fine too. Are there any other wants? What about in chapter 8 now? They didn't want to fight anymore. What did they want to do?
Listen and obey.
They wanted to listen and obey. Where did they want to move to?
The Crow's Canyon.
Yes. So let's see. Oliver?
In chapter 8, the blue coats wanted the Nimi Poo to give up their weapons and horses?
Mm-hmm. Artemis, stop it. No. Sorry, my cat's whining at me. I think let's see. I know they wanted to go to Montana. Was it specifically, what canyon did you say, Riley? I gotta look back.
Crow Canyon.
Crow Canyon?
Crow.
Artemis. Okay, so yeah, let's see, the Nimi Poo. We'll start with them first. Nimi Poo. Wanted to go to Montana or Crow Canyon for peace, right? Because they had already, they knew how strong the blue coats were. We come to the coyote in the next thing. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just double checking on the name. They wanted peace because some people had already died. And you're right. The blue coats in Montana wanted their horses and guns. Because, man, especially you guys, horses are worth so much more during this time. Right now, horses, they're not really, horses are expensive, but in the old days, if you had a horse, you could plow your earth, you could pull a cart, you could you could get to town faster. So horses were worth a lot more money. Yeah, Sienna.
Or like a vehicle or a method of moving back then.
Exactly. So if you had a good horse, that was worth a lot of money. That's why, that's one of the reasons why they wanted their horses, and their battle horses too. So they're trained in battle. Okay. But what is the problem? So we're looking at what they wanted. So let's look at, we don't have to do all of them, but the blue coats wanted, they wanted the Nimi Poo to go to Lapwai and get revenge. But what ended up happening? What was the problem? But,
War.
yep, the Nimi Poo fought them and killed most of them, or killed many of them. And they wanted to, so then let's also look then, the Nimi Poo, they wanted to go to Montana, and they wanted to have peace, but what was in their way? That does not say Nimi. Thank you.
Settlers. Blue coats, also known as blue coats.
Yep. So the Nimi Poo, they wanted to head to Montana, and they couldn't just go straight there, right? What they have to kind of go through?
Blue coats?
They had to go.
Valley.
They had to go through the coats, and what was that? Somebody said it.
The valley.
Yep, the valley, and I thought it was a canyon, too.
Canyon.
Because I'm looking at the path. Was it Whitebird Canyon? Yeah, so I'm looking at the map, you guys. So if you go to the map, you can see the Battle of Whitebird Canyon, June 17th. So I think that's where that first battle was with the coat.
It says battle with the crows, and they were talking about the crows, and so I think it's in Battle of the Crows, September 13th.
September 13th?
Yeah, it's right by Yellowstone River.
I think I want to say I think that's much later because I don't think they're that far yet. Because remember, they just crossed
Oh,
the
we
river.
got to the Crow Canyons.
Did they get to?
The Crow
Yeah,
Canyon.
they said the Crow Canyon or something like that, and so I would think, but I don't know.
That could be. And they were talking about the hot springs in like Yellowstone. Oh, goodness. This is why we look back in our book, right? So we have at midnight we left our camp, so I'm on page 7, left south for Whitebird Canyon. So that's where they started, Whitebird Canyon. Okay, and then so June 17th, so that's where they first started it. And then they fought again in Clearwater. Okay, so I'm looking at the map. So they fought the big first battle, Bird Canyon, then Clearwater, so they traveled north. Yeah, Sienna?
They said that they were going onto the path, and then when they were getting onto the path, it grew steeper, so they couldn't ride their horses down it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, they said they traveled towards the rising sun. What direction does the sun rise in? Do you guys
East
know?
to west.
It rises in the east and sets in the west. So if we look at our map, they traveled east, so they traveled this way. Yep. So
So they probably are in the Crow's Canyon.
yep, so they did travel. Oh no, my post-it fell out.
Because I think they went, because it's seeing all that trail, so they went to Battle of the Clearwater, all the way down to Battle of the Big Hole, I think.
Yeah,
And
you can't see that big black line. That's their trail. That's the path.
yeah, because they end in Battle of the Bear Paw. That's the ending battle, but
Oh, it talks about Salmon Creek. Is it? Can we see where Salmon Creek is?
maybe it could be in the Spirit Fountains or the Yellowstone River.
I don't remember them. They didn't talk about the
I
Yellowstone
think
River yet.
in the Salmon Creek, it must be really close to the like mountains or something because they were right by the mountains when they put their horses in the canyon.
Okay, so yeah, so they moved east. Nora, did you have something?
It said they were heading towards the land of the crows, but it never talked about Crow Canyon. The only canyon that it talked about was Whitebird Canyon.
Okay, so I think they're still moving that way. So I think, and I think the canyon, so this is where, you know what? See where the line is for Montana? Remember how they crossed the canyon and somebody was building a fort? I think this black line, I think they just crossed the mountains right into Montana.
Yeah, because they haven't done that many battles yet.
Yeah, so I think if we
Only
look,
two.
okay, yep, yeah, they only had the two. I think they just had Battle of Whitebird Canyon and Battle of Clearwater, and then they went northeast, because they're traveling east. And I think they are just passing over to Montana because they hadn't gotten there. And they're like, we have no quarrels with Montana Bluecoats, only the Idaho Bluecoats. So I think they just crossed Montana. So where the dotted line is for Montana, crossing those mountains, I think that's where they just crossed. Okay, so the Nimipu wanted to go to Montana for peace. So that's what the problem is. So the Nimipu they wanted to travel and have peace. It autocorrects Nimipu. But the Nimipu ran into more soldiers. And remember, they had to move fast, so they had to leave their cattle too, and had to climb over the mountains. Remember, they were hungry sometimes too. climb through / over the mountains. How did they solve this problem? So let's see. The blue coats wanted the Nimi Poo to go to Lapua but they got revenge, and they wanted to get revenge. But the Nimi Poo fought them and killed many of them. So what happened? So did they keep fighting them, or did they slowly stop? The blue coats.
They slowly stopped.
Yeah, so the blue coats slowly stopped following them. Or they couldn't catch up. We don't know if they actually stopped. They could still. And the Nimi Poo, so they had the problem with running into soldiers, and they had to go through the mountains. So what did they have to do? What did they have to do with the soldiers when they ran into them?
Fight them.
They had to fight them. The Nimi Poo had to fight soldiers. Oh, goodness. Stop autocorrecting. Had to fight the soldiers. And they had to go through the mountains. I want you to accept Nimi Poo. Yeah, my cat was whining for food. Okay, how did the story end? What happened?
They I think they got past them and were headed off to
Yeah, it was a good thing that we actually looked up that route, because that made us understand it a little bit better. So yeah, because it helped them, because they're not all the way through yet. It looks like we're still going to follow their journey, but they got past that first mountain into Montana. Yep. Okay. Beautiful.
Still only on I still have to write the rest of the then.
Yep, that's fine. I don't think we're going to do the summary, but I'm going to summarize it for you. So if I was going to write this, so we did a summary, usually somebody wanted but, so then, I would now put this into a full sentence. I'm going to make this a little smaller. Or I'd put this into a paragraph together. So I would say, we have the characters Sound of Running Feet and Swan Necklace, who were, or let's see, well, I would say the story is told by Sound of Running Feet, and her fiance, Swan Necklace, had to go fight the Bluecoats. Okay. Red Owl wanted to watch the fight, and so Sound of Running Feet had to go get him. They were fighting because the Bluecoats wanted the Nimi Poo to go to Lapua, and they also wanted to get revenge on the people they killed. Sound of Running Feet wanted to fight, but she couldn't. Then, during this chapter 7 and 8, the Nimi Poo, or the soldiers, let's see, I'm going to do this a little bit clearer. The Bluecoats continued to follow them to fight and try to kill the Nimi Poo. And they killed 4 of them. The Nimi Poo ended up running into more soldiers, and when they did, they fought them, killed many Bluecoats, and they wanted to finally climb over the mountains for peace into Montana. So eventually, the Bluecoats stopped following them, and the Nimi Poo traveled through the mountains to the other side, to where they met the Montana Bluecoats. The Montana Bluecoats wanted their horses and guns, but the Nimipu said no, and they finally got past the mountains into Montana. Okay, so if you noticed, when I wrote my paragraph or I wrote my summary, I used what I already had here, and I used these words, somebody. Okay, I said the people, what did they want? But what happened? So, and then the Nimipu got past the mountains into Montana. Okay, so this, we did not have to, we don't have to turn in. I wanted to go through it though, because I wanted to understand chapter 7 and 8 a little bit clearer. And good thing we did, because we figured out how the map was going to help us. Okay, so let me explain to you what we're going to do tomorrow really quick before you go. I have for homework reading 30 minutes. Okay, but tomorrow you're going to need your 18B organizer again. Okay, what we've been filling out. We have been filling out these questions. Okay, so you're going to need this tomorrow. 18B evidence organizer for Chief Joseph and Son of Firm Feet. Okay. Give me a second. Let me review this, and then I will pull up the somebody wanted but so then. Okay, if you didn't finish. So let me just explain this, then I'll re-show the thing. So tomorrow, you're going to end up adding. We already added 3 things for Chief Joseph, and I'm going to have you add another quote from Sound of Running Feet tomorrow. Okay. So tomorrow, what you got to do is you're going to, so we looked at the map actually, so we did that today. We're going to add some information from Sound of Running Feet, so some of her quotes, okay? And then you're going to have this day 15 question set. Actually, I'm going to change it to say lesson 20. And this question set, we've got some spots from chapter 8 and 9. And then you are answering some multiple choice. So you're going to look at some of the words and some evidence and details. Okay. So that's what you got to do tomorrow is I'm going to help you fill out 18B and you then can work on this question set. And okay. Goodbye. I will, somebody want to, so then.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.